We have breaking new developments at this hour in the hunt for those terror suspects in Brussels. George is off this morning. You see David Muir. He is anchoring live from Brussels. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Robin. Great to be with you as always. And you're right, there are several breaking developments after the terror attacks here in Brussels. Authorities are now searching for 2 suspects this morning. There had already been a massive manhunt underway here. There's a military presence on the streets. This morning, people patted down at random checkpoints as police search for the man in white in this surveillance photo from the airport. Still not identified, but on the run this morning. And breaking now, word of a second man captured on surveillance at the subway. We have obviously known about the bomber in the subway, but this morning, they now say they're looking for someone else from that very scene. And we're learning more about the other suspects, 2 of them brothers. And now a failure of intelligence may have allowed them to carry out their attack. There were warnings. We have it all covered this morning, and GMA News anchor Amy Robach has been here in Brussels from the very start, and she has the very latest. Good morning, Amy.
That's right, David. There have been a significant number of breaking developments this morning. The suspects in those Paris attacks, Salah Abdeslam's lawyer, appeared in court just moments ago saying his client will not fight extradition to Paris, and he claims his client has no knowledge of the Brussels attacks. Meanwhile, we're learning so much more about those 5 suspects in this case.
This morning, random security checks popping up all over this city, a sign of the new normal here. Authorities just announcing the search for a 5th suspect in the terror attacks seen on surveillance footage inside the Maelbeek subway station with bomber Khalid El-Bakraoui before he detonated. The announcement comes as investigators race to piece together the trail of clues left behind by the 2 deceased airport bombers. Belgian officials telling ABC News they believe this man on the left is Najem El-Bakraoui, the bomb maker they've been hunting since the November Paris attacks. Police discovering his bomb factory in this suburban apartment. 33 pounds of so-called mother of Satan explosives, chemicals, detonators, and a suitcase filled with nails and screws. And this man in the middle now identified as Ibrahim El-Bakraoui. An urgent call this morning for a shared European intelligence agency after Turkey admitted they deported El-Bakraoui to the Netherlands last year. The president of Turkey says they warned Belgium that the bomber was a terrorist fighter, but says Belgian authorities couldn't identify a link. Turkey's president confirming Wednesday that he'd been captured last June on the Syrian border, deported back to Europe, and flagged a foreign terrorist fighter. But Belgian police only identified him as a common criminal. Police found what appears to be a suicide note on a laptop in a garbage can from El-Bakraoui, a desperate note that he was being in a rush, no longer knowing what to do, in a bad situation, and if he did not act immediately, he would be in a prison cell like him. Authorities believe him may be Salah Abdeslam, one of the suspects of the Paris attacks, detained last week after a 4-month search. He is suspected of playing a role in the Brussels attack prior to his arrest. That arrest may have caused the terror cell to panic and accelerate their plans. The number of those injured in Monday's attacks is up to 300, more than 40 nationalities among them, 61 people now in intensive care, 4 still unidentified as they lie in coma. Among the missing, Kentucky couple Justin and Stephanie Schultz.
It is a tense scene here in Brussels as authorities continue to hunt for those 2 missing suspects. And the airport here at Brussels will be closed through Saturday. It is still a crime scene as investigators comb through every detail to try and find more clues into finding these suspects. And David, you and I were out late last night. It was eerie. It was a ghost town. Police, heavily armed members of the military, and a few of us coming home trying to get a bite to eat. But it's obvious that Brussels here is still at its highest threat level.
And I went into the subway yesterday late in the day, and they were closing it early, and they had armed guards at every checkpoint. You had to open your coats before you could get on the subway here. So a completely different city after these terror attacks. And of course, the bigger question now is how big was this terror cell? How many of them are still alive and possibly planning attacks?